We're going to be watching a video about Genshin Impact's catastrophic 2024 boycott. This is by Muujin, who is a content creator that I'm a very big fan of. I would love to learn more about the boycott because I saw the rumblings of it on Twitter, but overall ignored it because I thought it was pretty stupid. So let's go ahead and get into it. If you'd like to know my full personal opinion about the Natlin whitewashing situation, it is already up on my channel. But let's go ahead and get into it. Come join us on Twitch if you ever have time. Twitch.tv/hex_juice at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time every day except for Sunday when we watch movies in my Discord. So join there as well. Let's go ahead and get into it. Subscribe.
Another day, another Genshin Impact boycott, this time with over 100,000 signatures on a change.org petition with the name Stop Cultural Appropriation and Whitewashing in MiHoYo Games.
I'd love to know how many of these 100,000 signatures are bots, because I feel like it's very easy to bot these. I'd also love to know whenever in the history of the universe a change.org petition did anything. I just think these are so incredibly meaningless. I've never seen anything come up anything like this. Like it always just seems like a whole lot of nothing.
MiHoYo, otherwise known as Hoyoverse, who is Genshin Impact's developer. This isn't the first time that Genshin Impact is accused by its community, mostly on Twitter and Reddit, of being racist. But this is the first time where you have significant people within the community talk about it. I'm talking
I would say that this is the biggest it's ever been, for sure. It's definitely been a big talk before. I think with Sumeru, it was definitely talked about quite a lot, especially with some of the character designs, so specifically taking from the cultures and then them being pasty as fuck. But I will say that this is the first time where I feel like everybody was in on it. It was voice actors, like a lot of voice actors. Everybody kind of talked about it. Content creators that I was honestly surprised brought it up, kind of thing. And so it has been talked about quite a lot before. This is definitely the biggest it ever has been, for sure.
Voice actors who voiced for the game directly talking about it, and content creators who never really involved themselves in controversy and who've never spoken about something like this talk about it now. The people protesting this were done with the game, voicing their discontent and saying that they were going to boycott it. But little did they know that this entire controversy, this entire boycott, was going to be catastrophic, but not in the way you'd think.
Catastrophically embarrassing, for sure. I will never get over people boycotting something that they didn't think they had to stop participating in. Because the craziest thing about that whole situation is that all of the boycotts, all of the things that were listed as things that you were supposed to do to support the boycott, none of them were actually stopping playing Genshin Impact. And when people pointed that out, they were like, but we have to play. For some of us, it's our only real comfort in life. That is so beyond anything anyone can help you with at that point. If that's true, like, what do you mean? You can't stop playing something that you're boycotting? Like, is that not the actual peak of virtue signaling? This was my tweet about the situation. Boycotting something like while being unable to quit doing it is so pitiful, dude. How is Hoyo gonna take you seriously if you're too addicted to put down Genshin to even do a proper boycott? Because it's kind of the same thing as like, you know, we're doing a strike against, you know, nurses doing a strike against a hospital, right? Well, I do need to go in and get my paycheck, so I'm gonna go ahead and cross the picket line. You have to legitimately stop doing the thing if you're boycotting it, otherwise it doesn't count. Because these games gauge their success on player numbers and money spent. Going free to play is not enough.
Let's talk about it. But you know how you can avoid catastrophe? Showing up with a ship like this. And you can get
respectfully.
Genshin Impact has been out for almost 4 years now. And
Genshin Impact was a really funny caption for that, sorry.
In that time, it has found itself embroiled in racism controversies 3 times now, including this one going on right now.
Right.
And the question is, why? Well, you see, Genshin Impact has many regions, with Liyue right here being inspired by China. I mean, they have an actual opera singer called Yunjin that sings in Mandarin Chinese opera.
Right. Yes. But yeah, I think that it is so interesting when we talk about this to talk about like respecting cultures. Because my personal opinion is that the bigger issue with the way that Genshin handles it is that they pull so very directly from a culture. They use names of gods. They use very important cultural icons, mythical creatures from very particular cultures, but then don't represent the skin tones of those cultures and kind of just like put them in a box and shake them up. And so like, I think that tends to be the bigger problem, but it's so interesting to see the contrast of when they're representing their own culture, right? When they're representing China specifically and important Chinese culture concepts, like Yunjin had an actual opera, like Chinese opera singer do the singing, which I think was separate from her actual voice actor. So like, they can put a lot of work into respectfully, representing a culture, just not outside of China.
Made to promote and celebrate Chinese culture, so it's no secret Liyue is based on China. Then you have Inazuma based on Japan, where the enemies look like samurais, and the goddess of the region, or Archon, is called the Raiden Shogun, right? It's fairly straightforward.
Right.
The first racism controversy that Hoyoverse was embroiled in was...
Actually, that is such a good point, though. I'm having a bit of a brain blast. They separated out Japanese culture very specifically from Chinese culture. They didn't just take a bunch of East Asian cultures and put them in a Tupperware and shake them up. But when they've done Sumeru, and now with Natlin, they just take random ass cultures and shake them up and don't separate them into their own country. All that just gets put in the blender and then poured out for you. But Japan and China are very much Japan and China, which is interesting. I don't know what to take from that, but it's interesting to note.
Shortly after the game's release in 2020, one of the first and most common enemies you fight in the game for a very long time are called hilichurls. And this is how they look, right? Controversy stemmed from how their skin is the blackest it can be, and they are seen as the enemy. What made this controversy somewhat significant, though, was when an office tour of the developer of Genshin Impact was published on YouTube, and people saw an employee taking inspiration for the dance the hilichurl does from tribal and indigenous people. This is the dance right here, right? So overall, this happened.
I'm just gonna be real. I don't think you necessarily needed to see the specific dance or the specific reference. If you saw the dance that they did, it's pretty obvious if you've seen things in the world. I don't think that's I don't know what to think about that.
However, at the time, the game had generated over $1 billion just in 6 months, and the community was so huge that these complaints, honestly, they pretty much got ignored. No one really took them seriously. Now, at this point, Genshin had been out for over a...
I'll say that one's a little bit silly. Does it matter? I don't think so. I think that's a really, really big reach. We could connect some dots. 100%. We could start connecting crazy dots like it's national treasure, but I don't think that really matters. But I think I guess more so I'm clouding on the fact that people were surprised that it was based on the dance of indigenous people, because if you look at the dance, it's pretty obvious.
A year, the Inazuma arc was concluding, and people were looking forward to the next region that came afterwards, which was Sumeru. There was such a content drought that leakers were becoming more and more of a problem because people looked forward to new content so much. I would argue one of the biggest leaks in this game's history was this image right here.
I remember this. This was after I quit, but oh boy, do I remember this. This was way after I quit too, but I remember.
This was posted on Reddit and then Twitter. And as you can see, this has over 20,000 upvotes on the subreddit r/Genshin Impact leaks. This image was so extremely significant. You had 7 characters that no one had ever seen before. The only thing that was shown from Sumeru was nothing, right? This was posted on June 30th, 2022. A few days later, on July 2nd, would be the first time people would even see what the region looked like. And
I just want to say, Nahida's insane. Her pale, Snow White skin is pale as freshly fallen snow type shit. Goddamn.
There you had every single character releasing
ghostly
for the next months after Sumeru finally releases. The leaks were getting out of control, but that's not what people were concerned with on Twitter or Reddit. Sumeru was meant to be a region inspired by the Middle East and South Asia, so India, for example. This made Twitter and some Reddit communities lose their absolute minds, calling Hoyoverse racist for not wanting to display the skin colors of the cultures that they were getting inspired from. and the hashtag Boycott Genshin got created.
Do you think anybody like someday will like give up on hashtag Boycott Genshin? Do you think ever as a community we'll realize that it's just not gonna work? How many times has that been and it's been unsuccessful? What a cringe tag and a cringe thing to be known for, truly. Like, who cares? It's not gonna work. And anybody thinking that it was gonna work is just fucking pitiful. I'm just gonna be real.
What I found really funny at the time was that these were leaked characters. These were illegally obtained images of the characters. Yet people were messaging Genshin Impact's customer support, complaining on Twitter, complaining on Reddit, calling them racist, when the entire foundation of their argument is an image obtained illegally. Like, it just didn't make sense.
I'm gonna be real. I don't care about leaks. I don't really think that there's that much of like a moral imperative to not leak. I don't really care. If Hoyoverse wanted to keep that information safe, they'd do a better job of it. But the reality is, like, Honkai Star Rail, the new beta came out last night, and you want to know what else came out last night within like an hour? Was all of the leaked animations for the new characters. And that's like, if you want to have better security, you could. You're a $1 billion corporation, but I don't think it is like a moral imperative for people to like stay away from or be disgusted by the legality of leaks, because they're a $1 billion company. They could be better about protecting their trademark and protecting their leaked stuff, but they do it anyway. I don't care.
Even if content creators and voice actors and just people in the community wanted to talk about it, they couldn't, because that would blacklist them from any collaborations with Hoyoverse in the future. There's one thing they don't like, and it's discussing leaks. But that didn't.
Which is so weird, because they also make it so incredibly easy. Like, it's so weird that they're so weird. Like, they get so mad about it, but they also make it so easy to do.
Stop the community from creating a wildfire. Over time, as Genshin Impact would reveal more and more characters in Sumeru, there would always be comments in the replies talking about how they're not dark enough. But that didn't stop a huge amount of people from liking and spending money on those designs.
No, it did not. Wasn't Nahida one of the biggest banners ever in Genshin Impact history, despite all of this? And yes, it was.
Ironically, even though there was an entire boycott movement made on Twitter, when the goddess or Archon of Sumeru released, which is probably the most pale character out of any character in Sumeru,
Is she not the palest character in Genshin? I would love to know. There's no way she's not. She's so pale. She's never seen the sun. She's gonna live forever. She's never gonna get skin cancer, melanoma. How can you? She's never been touched by the sun once in her life. Insane.
broke sales records. Yes, this was the highest selling character banner in the history of the game since its release in 2020.
And that's with Yoimiya being the other banner too, which Yoimiya, I don't know if that's changed, but quite literally, she has never been a popular character. At least when she released, people were very annoyed by Yoimiya, and I got her anyway because I thought she was really cute. But that's with Yoimiya as the second part of the banner. So it's not like it's like a high value second character banner. This is all on Nahida.
More specifically in China, which is one of their main markets. But overall, it did very, very well globally too. This was then largely forgotten, right? We moved on to the next region, which was Fontaine. A mix of French and British culture. I don't know why you mix both of those things, but listen, it's your game, buddy.
No, I think it's appropriate to mix both of those. Who likes the British or the French? No one. No one, not even themselves. Well, the French like themselves. I don't think the British like themselves. As an American, I don't like either of them, and that's just what I have to be. It's part of my my red-blooded American heritage to hate the Brits and to hate the French.
But people from the Sumeru controversy were hoping that the region after Fontaine, which was going to be Natlan, would give them what they wanted, darker skinned characters, because it was a region rumored to be inspired by South American and some African culture. Well, as you could guess.
What do you guys think happened? Do you guys want to look into the future and guess if they got what they wanted from Natlan? You want to look into the crystal ball? I could have told you this before this shit even came out. I probably would have if you asked. You guys want to guess what happened?
From this video and the title and what we're talking about, it didn't.
Oh yeah, devs. I'm gonna say devs listened. Oh yeah, the devs very much listened. 100%.
Any of their expectations. On July 9th, 2024, Hoyoverse did their 4.8 version livestream, and then, at the end, revealed not only more of Natlan's landscape, but all these characters.
A lot of these designs are pretty mid.
With Mavuika over here being the goddess or archon of the region. So as you can tell, there's not much of a change since Sumeru, right?
No.
So this prompted the same people who disliked Sumeru designs to come back on Twitter and Reddit and in the communities they frequent to talk about their dislike and disappointment in the direction Hoyoverse took these characters.
I also think that the way that they tend to choose the shade of darker skin tone for these characters, it's very like gray, like overly cool tone to the point of being like purplish. Like, I don't know a lot of people who have that tone of skin, because usually you're gonna be kind of like yellowy, you're gonna be a little bit red leaning, but like purple is odd to me. And this happens a lot with their character designs, but the way that they choose their darker skin tones, I just don't like at all. It doesn't look very human.
Dislike and disappointment in the direction Hoyoverse took these characters. You saw tweets like this popping up with the hashtag Boycott HYV, which stands for Hoyoverse, saying, "Look at this bullshit, fix your ass games Hoyoverse," showing examples of dark-skinned characters in Annie games and then comparing them to Hoyoverse's palette. This boycott ended up reaching people outside of the targeted demographic with this tweet right here, where someone ended up sending a message to Genshin Impact's customer support.
The hashtag why are they white Hoyo is also so asinine. You know why they're white. It's a dumb, cringe hashtag. But I guess we've learned that hashtag Boycott Genshin Impact doesn't work and is stupid, and you don't want to rally behind that particular thing. So I guess hashtag why are they white Hoyo is, but that's not better. Let's be real with each other. We know why. They're always going to be like that. There's always going to be very few darker skinned characters. But I will say, I always think it's so interesting how this is specifically such a big problem for Genshin Impact, where there's like not realistically any very popular gacha games that have a variety of skin tones. Genshin Impact, HSR, Honkai Impact, Wuthering Waves, but there are very, very few not light-skinned characters in any gacha games. Like, there are very few gacha games that even have a lot of that. And also, Chinese people are not pale white. That's not even a thing. Japanese people are not super, super, super pale white. That's not even a full representation of the skin tones in their own regions if it's like a Chinese or Japanese area. But if we want to complain about it in Genshin, it's in most gacha games. It's a beauty standard issue. It's a racism and colorism issue. It's also a stealing culture issue. However, if you like a game that has a large variety, a large variety of representation in many skin tones and many different colors, might I suggest Cookie Run Kingdom. Look at all those skin tones. Incredible. Genshin Impact skin tones? Not variety. Not very slay. Cookie Run Kingdom skin tones? Many variety. Many slay. Play Cookie Run Kingdom now. This is not sponsored, but I would be.
Complaining about the characters' designs and their skin tone, saying Genshin is not real life. Genshin Impact, what kind of response is this when a player submits feedback about the racism and colorism? Embarrassing, unprofessional behavior from a company of grown-ups and supposed mature, well-read developers. Hashtag why are they white Hoyo.
God, that's such an ass
what
hashtag.
The customer service was responding with. Here's what they said. Dear traveler, thank you for your feedback. Please be kindly reminded that Genshin Impact is a work of fiction and is not related to actual people, events, groups, or organizations. We really do hope for your understanding. Kind regards, Genshin Impact Customer Service Team.
Was this even real? I feel like this is very easy to fake automated message. I guess to me, I understand why people are upset. Like, I'm gonna be at the fear of sounding very woke. I understand why you would want, if a company, if a corporation is taking directly from your culture, insofar as taking very direct cultural references, as in like names of gods, mythical creatures, all of that stuff. If you're going to do that, I understand why people would want these skin tones accurately represented to a certain degree. Whitewashing people's cultures sucks ass. However, your options are continue to bitch about it and whine about it for good boy points and chicken tendies on Twitter as they do, or stop playing the game. But if you want to have real integrity about it, you don't really get to play the game and also be outraged on Twitter, because it's not gonna change. It's very clear from an email response like this that they have no intention of changing. So you have to choose one. You can choose to get your chicken tendies and just continue to bitch. But you don't get to continue to act like you are like doing anything other than virtue signaling if you don't stop. But I understand the outrage, but the conviction behind it, the actual action behind it is absolutely fucking pitiful. I'm sorry.
This led to a very divided response on Twitter, with some people calling Hoyoverse based for this response and others saying that they were immature and this only made them hate them more. In any case, this got so much attention that the person who tweeted it ended up deleting their account, which is why I'm showing you a screenshot.
Jesus.
But this was still nothing compared to what happened next. Valeria Rodriguez, a voice actress and someone who happens to voice Sucrose from Genshin Impact, the 4-star character, tweeted this out on July 13th, saying, "I could stay quiet about this and protect myself, but us folk of color don't always need to stay quiet and let others f*** us over and disrespect us, so that we continue to advance at half the pace of our white peers."
Okay, I had not seen this.
If you're going to use real world deities, respect them. If you're basing off of real cultures, respect that. I'm fine with things being inspired by various cultures. That's awesome. Representation is dope. But bare minimum, do some research and show some cultural appreciation. Then she goes on to say, Oloran is the supreme Yoruba deity. You could find that with a quick Google search even. This is unforgivable. Look at what a sick job Smite did with their own interpretation. It's not hard. So here she's referencing Oloran right here, the Yoruba deity. On the right, you could see the design from Smite. And right here is a character called Ororun in Genshin Impact, part of Natlan's new characters. That doesn't resemble him in the slightest, right? She then ends her chain of tweets.
If they had not so specifically taken from the name of a deity, I honestly think this would not have been as big of a deal. But taking the name of a deity, an African deity, this is a white boy that's been kissed by the sun. And so like to take that name and put it on that body, to put it on that character is weird. But it's like this very, very, very specific and on purpose choice to take like the name of a deity, bastardize it as well, and then put it on this body. If you just didn't do that, it probably wouldn't have been nearly as controversial.
Tweets with a picture of herself with a book called Congo, The Epic History of a People, to prove that she's not doing this performatively. All right. So it's odd.
Stop working with Genshin and stop playing the game then. It's performative if you just tweet it on Twitter so that you get updates and do nothing else.
Obvious that this tweet or series of tweets are very angry and emotional. And this was partly because it wasn't just talking about a video game anymore, it was talking about racism in general. This was also very direct, right? This wasn't a subtweet or an indirect tweet. This was calling out Genshin specifically by including this picture of the upcoming character Orun. A voice actor being this direct about Genshin Impact controversy has never really quite happened before. So one could say this was really the ground zero of the massive Twitter drama that followed. Valeria didn't stop there though. She tweeted again on the same day, "My reaction to you dorks saying you're gonna switch your game to a different language now." And it shows an emoji laughing. "I'm not deleting my tweets either. Seeing the huge response, both hateful and positive, means that I struck a chord. I'm done being silent. It's 2024. We can all do better."
All of this shit only matters sometimes if it has to Western companies. Because the problem is like no corporation really cares about this kind of stuff. Definitely not corporations that are not like in the same values that are in the culture that you're in, right? Western values are different than Chinese values. American values are different than Chinese values. And so when you are literally in a culture with totally different set of values, and it's a corporation that doesn't care anyway, as long as they get their profit, they don't care. You cannot make Hoyoverse care about this. If you're a voice actor, they'll replace you. And if you don't quit and you keep playing the game, you keep supporting and helping the game, the tweet does nothing. You are shouting into the air. You are shouting into the void to nothing, to no changes, to no effect.
Then you had Bill Butt speak up, someone who doesn't voice for Genshin Impact, but who voices for Honkai Star Rail, another game in Hoyoverse's roster. He's Albert, the beloved host of Honkai Star Rail live streams that showcase the next versions, choosing not to be as direct as Valeria and saying, "Dark skin is beautiful. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise." This was also made on July 13th, the same day Valeria was tweeting, and one could regard it as a subtweet, as an indirect tweet towards what was going on in Genshin Impact.
Oh my god, you know what it reminds me of? This whole like the tweeting and being like, it's not performative, it means something. You know in The Office when Michael Scott walks out of his office and goes, "I am declaring bankruptcy!" It's kind of like that. You're just shouting nothing to nobody that cares, and it's not making any difference.
Andra Saab, who voices in 3 different Hoyoverse games in major roles, quote tweeted one of Valeria's tweets and said, "I didn't know that's who he's based on. Ah, that's bad. You still got time to fix it."
They're not going to.
Down and tweeting it again on his VTuber account, echoing the same statement, but this time saying, "Wow, this is bad." So at this point, Twitter was on fire, and you had something that had never happened before. Multiple voice actors were, in some way, risking their jobs by speaking out about this so directly. But this was only the beginning. This tweet right here was made saying, "Why aren't Genshin content creators saying anything? They're the voices of the community. They should speak," garnering.
Let's all get everybody on the Virtue Signal party. Come get your chicken tendies. You're missing out on your chicken tendies from your good boy points. You know, the people that promote the game the most out of anybody, the content creators who are going to continue promoting the game. You got to say something. Get your chicken tendy points. Get your good boy points. Got a Virtue Signal.
Quite a bit of attention. This made very positive Genshin Impact creators, people who typically avoid controversy in every way and just focus on the positives, feel pressured to speak. Doro44 is one of them, and he quote tweeted this tweet saying, "Why aren't Genshin content creators speaking?" and then had this to say, "I did on my stream and on my reaction to the trailer. I'm disappointed that there aren't darker skin tone characters in Natlan and the representation is just so bad, especially since Hoyo is pulling from real world regions and cultures. I genuinely had hope for them, and I hope they make changes in time of release."
They're not gonna. The hope is meaningless, and anybody with a brain knows that. And it's sad, and it sucks, and it's annoying. But let's be for real. It's not gonna change anything, and it never was.
And Doro speaking out pretty much started a chain reaction of other content creators also starting to speak out about it. You had Blap, one of the biggest Genshin Impact content creators around the time it released, able to do a video just playing the story and getting over 1 million views, said, "The insane part is like, what else is there to say about Genshin's colorism that hasn't already been said 2 years ago? People were talking about the same issues that were seen in Sumeru's cast and were instead told to wait for Natlan. Now that we're here, what do you wait for?"
I mean, anybody thinking that it was going to be different in Natlan is absurd. They're dumb because they had no hit to their profit the first time. Why would they change it up based off of a small portion of their audience? Who cares? I understand the outrage, then you got to stop playing the game. If you're not going to stop playing the game, the outrage is just kind of like it's meaningless. They're not going to do anything about it. It's pointless.
Tuwanto, the Genshin Impact content creator with the most subscribers on YouTube, retweeted 2 tweets that were echoing the same sentiment as the voice actors and content creators that had
and then also reposted feet.
spoken up. While this was happening, many people were taking the character designs that were already shown and making them black, like this one for example, and many others. And they were getting many views and a lot of traction on Twitter, with many people thinking, man, this should have been the actual design of these characters. But Tectone came in with a bit of a
So first of all, I'd like to say I think that a lot of those pieces of art were very cool and actually really nice looking and respectful redesigns. I think redesigning characters is like, it's pretty common, and I think those looked really nice. I will say that I don't think that it is an appropriate or respectful thing to do to just take the 3D models, color grab the white skin, and then make them dark. It's not respectful to put really, really dark skin on a character with fine, thin, straight hair. I saw color grabs that were being retweeted crazy that legitimately looked more disrespectful because it just straight up looked like blackface. It's lazy and it's crap. If you want better representation, make better representation. It's just insane to me. And I don't think that that was ever a good option or a good alternative. And I don't think it actually shows a lot of like allyship or whatever. But let's get into whatever this dude said, whatever he said.
Opinion saying Genshin Impact will not change. If you're mad, you should quit. The only thing they track/care about is money spent and concurrent player base.
True.
This has already happened before and will happen again. Side note, I do think it's fair to be upset, but the company doesn't care.
What a nice and respectful little side note there. Noting that it's okay to feel a certain way, but also that the company, that there's a reality to the situation. Wasn't that such a nice thing to acknowledge other points of view?
And this is where it gets tricky, because it was becoming clear this was a topic with many different opinions. Genshin Impact had made this tweet officially revealing Mualani in her drip marketing, and here's
and then she was so pale! She was already so pale, and then they paled her more.
2 kinds of quote tweets that I want to show you to really make you understand how opinions can differ. Someone quote tweeted this drip marketing and said, "Holy shit, Hoyoverse, you bumfucks, how did she get more white?"
Okay, this one was extremely stupid. Is she very clearly more pale? in this art? Yes. Was this a good way of demonstrating it? No, because they're in different light sources. Her face is closer to the light and therefore is more pale. This shit was dumb.
Accusing them of whitening her up in the drip marketing. And then you had this tweet right here saying, Genshin fans be like, they whitewashed Obama, showing Obama in 2 different scenarios that have different light sources. This one also getting a lot of traction. But what really made this boycott
I can't believe they did that to Obama. So disrespectful to him.
catastrophic in the sense that it didn't work, it won't work, and it will never work is this right here. I could just sum it up with this tweet. Look, this is someone participating in the boycott saying, please remember not to fund Hoyoverse anymore. Go free to play Queens. Because the sentiment echoed on the boycott communities on Twitter were saying, hey, listen, you can keep playing the game, just don't fund them, don't spend money anymore. And then you see this reply saying, or you could just stop playing the game?
Yes.
Because just you playing it pads their numbers and makes investors happy, meaning they still get money. Going free to play won't stop anything. To which this person replies, it is very easy to speak, but nearly impossible to do.
It is nearly impossible to stop playing Genshin Impact.
Remember thinking that I wanted to delete Honkai Star Rail, but I can't. Why? Because I invested 1,000 top dollars in this game.
I spent a lot of money, and so my outrage is ultimately meaningless because the money keeps me playing the game. That's Stockholm game. Oh God, you can't get away from it, dude. That's crazy.
How can I delete this game now? I have spent so much on it.
I don't even know what to say. Nearly impossible to do is crazy.
This right here is literally, like, I'm not even kidding. This is why the boycott didn't work and will never work, because the people boycotting it cannot stop playing the game. They're addicted. They can't do it. And here's the harsh reality.
You guys want to know something I'm really ashamed of? I don't know exactly how much I spent on Genshin Impact. I don't know the exact number because I don't want to know and I choose not to know or check. I spent several times more than that amount of money on Genshin. And you know what? I quit because the game wasn't fun anymore and I didn't like it. Money comes and goes, man. What I'm not going to do is continue doing something if I don't like it anymore. That sunken cost fallacy will kill you though, bestie. Holy. The money is gone. It's never coming back. You're not going to get your money back by continuing to play. You're probably just going to spend more money. Stop. Just stop. Just stop. If we can be honest with each other, which I don't want to be, somewhere in the range of 5 to 10, definitely more than 5. I quit because it wasn't fun anymore and the game wasn't something that I wanted to continue putting my time and life into it. And I'm glad that I did. I don't miss that money. It was gone the second that I spent it. Sunken cost fallacy is just that. It's a fallacy. You spend money, you make money. Money is a renewable resource. Your time is finite. Stop. Insane.
If Hoyoverse had to pick between someone who shows up in their game once a month, spends $100, and then leaves, versus someone who plays the game every single day for hours on end and doesn't spend any dollar, guess who they'll pick if they can keep only one? They'll pick the person who doesn't spend money but plays the game every single day for hours on end. Why? First off, it pads their numbers and makes the active concurrent player base seem higher. But
because success is based off of money made and active concurrent player base. Both of those are very important when talking to investors. That is why going free to play is not enough, because it does not show a dip in their active player base, i.e. they're still succeeding.
Also, this person's addicted, dude. They have a higher chance of becoming an evangelist, something very valuable to a company that money can't really buy, which means they'll talk to their friends about it. They'll probably buy merch. They'll go to conventions. They'll participate on social media, etc., etc.
Actively engaged players over other kinds of players is very important. That's very true. That's a good point.
And let's be real here. Many people boycotting are also in their teenage years, okay?
Yeah.
It's not like they spent a lot of money to begin with. I doubt the real whales who are actually spending thousands of dollars every month, yes, thousands, actually care about this. And
every month? What do you even spend thousands of dollars on every month? I don't know, dude.
This whole boycott is flawed. Additionally, Legal Mindset made this tweet saying, something tells me the Hoyoverse boycott will be ineffective. And this is a chart that shows the Genshin Impact player distribution by region. It says, here's a player distribution data by region. In the past 5 years, being 100 has the most players. And as you can see here, the top 5 countries in which there's the most players that play.
Where is the US? Are we not included, or are we not Are we not important enough? Okay, whatever. I don't even know if this is
Impact
real.
are Japan, South Korea, Philippines, Russia, and Taiwan. The United States isn't even here to begin with, and most of the European countries aren't either. In fact, I can't even find South America except for Chile and Costa Rica. The top 10 countries on this list, who also happen to be some of its biggest spenders, associate white skin with cleanliness, beauty, purity, and they also unfortunately don't really have any preference towards darker skin. I don't think it's surprising for me to say that both Japan and South Korea, the biggest player.
I feel like this is sus. I feel like there's no real way to know this. I don't know if that's for sure, or for real, or on God, but like I just feel like this is not real. I don't know how you'd know that. I think this is bullshit.
Bases in this game by far would probably never spend money on a darker skin color character. Because don't get it twisted. At the end of the day, this is about money.
Yeah.
Something that Hoyoverse is no stranger to at all. Genshin Impact in China alone has made $38 million in June of 2024, and this is during a dead period where there's not a lot of new content. Globally, Genshin Impact made $29 million, and I assure you, when the stats come out for July, it'll show a great number too.
Are there any darker skinned characters in a Hoyo game that are good? I think they're all kind of shit. Nekomata is a standard. Sino is okay, but is he good? Dea is not good. Arlen is not good. Also, Arlen has like a lot of weird slavery shit in his kit, which is wild. Kaya is not good. I don't think that there's a single good character that is like a deeper skin tone. Oh, the rocker girl, yeah. I don't even remember her name. She was like completely just a dead character instantly. None of those characters are really usable. What about Candace? Is Candace good? Candace, dick fit in your mouth? Sorry. They seem like they make a lot of the darker skinned characters also not very good to use. Like maybe they could be all right, but like at best they're not very good. So
That's
interesting.
Weird because some people were sharing this Imgur album saying this is the Chinese reaction to Natlan characters. Guys, there are allies here. With comments such as, agreed, it is appropriate to have black characters in settings and styles of Africa and Latin America. With bigger comments supporting it too. But here's the thing, this is part of a forum. I don't even know what the forum is, and these are only a few hand-picked comments. The reality is, most of the Chinese community is on Bilibili. Let's see what they had to say there.
I don't want to know what they said on Bilibili!
We don't have political correctness. They can f*** off. I don't like someone who looks too black. Villagers are black, and there are swarms of them. Why aren't they satisfied?
Oh.
Characters look okay. What's the problem? Why do they need to have dark skin? Black skin are so repulsive to look at, only slight tan are okay. Now, of course, this doesn't represent the majority of Chinese people on this planet, but the reality is, Hoyoverse would much rather piss off the global player who accesses Twitter and Reddit, two websites they can't access at home, rather than pissing off people like this.
I will say that on both sides, that's obviously cherry picked. Okay, we can be fair as people who are not in Chinese culture, that probably can't read Chinese, that are not probably on Bilibili. Both the ones of like the allies and both these racist comments are cherry picked regardless. Am I willing to very much believe that there's a lot of this kind of language? Yes, because Chinese people and Eastern Asia in general has a very strong bias towards pale skin tones. However, we have to acknowledge that both of these examples are cherry picked on like the allyship side and also on this like extremely obviously racist shit to say.
Don't get me wrong, 100,000 signatures is pretty significant. And this would have maybe gotten a certain reaction from a Western developer. But you're dealing with a Chinese corporation here, and a Chinese corporation will only care about either money or pissing off the government. That is it. There's nothing else. Zero. And this was proven.
Yeah. Well, you remember they changed Zhang Li's whole thing because he's supposed to be like the China, like he's the representative of Chinese culture for the game, right? He's the god of the Chinese area. And when he wasn't super, super good, that was why they ended up changing, because they went to the government and were like, they're disrespecting China, basically. And so now he's like still, I believe, like the strongest shielder in the game.
One of the worst ways, as this was happening, by the way, the salt in the wound to everyone who signed this petition and complained on Twitter happened as they were complaining. On July 18th.
Oh my God, I know exactly. Oh God, this was embarrassing!
Not even a few days after the whole boycott movement was beginning to really explode, Genshin Impact released a patch for Neuvillette, a character famously known to have a very overpowered ability which lets him 360 and pretty much eliminate anyone in his radius. After 8 months of being out, they release a patch that quote-unquote fixes it and stops him from being able to do this rapidly. The Chinese fan base.
That's the most they can do.
Lost its mind over this and threatened to sue Genshin Impact under the law of Chinese consumer rights. And I kid you not, I kid you not, in under 24 hours, not only did they reverse the patch, but they sent one of the most generous rewards in the game's history, 1,600 Primogems to a...
This was like within 24 hours and a 10 pull. They don't even give 10 pulls for celebrations. When's the last time they didn't gate that behind you having to log in for a week? Embarrassing, by the way.
Apologize. While people were still complaining about the skin colors, Hoyoverse had pretty much said we couldn't care less unless our Chinese business was in danger. As I told you, either money or the government. That is the only thing that can move a Chinese corporation. And Chinese players knew that very well. Look, people have voiced their opinions. It's their opinion, you know, it's their viewpoint, and of course it's valid. I think one of the main issues I've seen people voice is the fact that their history is quote-unquote being replaced, because now if I type Olorun, which is the Yoruba deity, I start to see the Genshin Impact character, right? Who doesn't look anything like him. And the people complaining are making this out to be a life or death situation. Like, oh my god, my culture is being replaced, it's being erased, I cannot support the game anymore. But the thing is, you can't make this out to be a life or death situation if you're addicted to the game and can't stop playing it.
Base. You can't have outrage and then log in every day. I mean, you can. Obviously, you can. You're open to not being taken seriously, and that's what virtue signaling is. Because virtue signaling is signaling a virtue without actually holding that virtue, right? Tweeting on Twitter is not activism. It's not action. You can use it to get people involved in activism, but every time you log into that game, know that you are actively on whatever your supposed value system is. You're cheating on it yourself.
Because the fact that people are still playing the game while signing the petition just makes everyone look like absolute clowns, and that's the reality. A real boycott is like what happened with Blizzard back in 2019, when they disqualified a player for voicing support for Hong Kong protesters back in 2019. People in retaliation started deleting their Blizzard accounts. Yes, deleting them, not just not playing on them, deleting them in such high numbers that... But I spent $1,000 on the game! And like I played it like a whole lot. I'm like max level. All my characters are level 90. I can't delete it. Okay, so it doesn't matter to you that much then. Not if you can't have your precious characters. Okay. Blizzard did something dirty. They started asking people for their ID to delete your account. They were getting scared. This emboldened the employees to start doing on-site protests on the company grounds. Now, unfortunately, this was stopped short when the Hong Kong protests got stopped short because of the pandemic. But as you can see, this is a real example of a boycott, not whatever's going on with Genshin right now. I don't think anything will change. And until something like this happens, nothing will ever change.
And you'd have to get Chinese people involved. East Asian people involved. You'd have to. Otherwise, you're not doing fuck all. I guess unless you somehow get enough people in NA to delete their accounts, which is going to be impossible.
So my advice to you is, if you truly find this to be a life or death situation for you and your culture, then honestly, I think it's time to move on and go to a game that better presents your values. Because Genshin Impact or anything under Hoyoverse will not do so. And yeah, that's pretty much the controversy that's been going on the last few weeks. Thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna see you in the next video, which will probably be a deep dive on what's been going on with Ava Chris Tyson. There's a lot of misinfo being spread around, as well as some real info that some people might not be aware of.
I'd love to watch that, Mooch, and I look forward to your video.
So we're gonna be doing that. I don't know how long it's gonna take me, but we'll see. I love you so much. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Mwah!
Love you, Muujin. Thank you, bestie. Hashtag boycott Genshin. If you want to be the boycott Genshin guy and be a mega cringe, make sure you use hashtag boycott Genshin. Anyways, let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Thank you for watching on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe. Go give Muujin some support as well. He is fantastic. Boycotting games that don't care about you is a waste of time. Quit or keep playing, but the virtue signaling is exhausting and annoying. Thank you guys so much. Have a good day. Touch some grass, drink some water, eat something nutritious, take your vitamins, all that stuff. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye!